Welcome back to the deep dive. So our mission here is pretty straightforward. We take a whole load of sources on someone or something complex, and we boil it down, give you the key insights, the stuff you really need to know.
Right, the shortcut to getting properly informed.
Exactly. And today, we're peeling back the layers on Wagner Mourы. An actor, yes, but also, well, a real intellectual force, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, when you really look at his body of work, you see it's not just performance. It's almost an intellectual project unfolding on screen.
So that's our dive today, unpacking how he uses his craft.
Precisely. How his intense preparation, his political choices, even the philosophical questions he tackles in his roles, how all that challenges power and sparks social conversations. In Brazil, sure, but globally too.
And the sources we've looked at, they really highlight his range. I mean, obviously fluent in Portuguese, his native language.
Of course.
But then dedicating months to learn specific Spanish dialects for roles like Escobar, that's serious commitment.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then you add in his activism in Brazil, he's very vocal on social justice.
And the music, his band, Sua Mai. He writes the lyrics he sings.
Right. It all connects. It shows that his work is deeply rooted in, well, rigorous thinking.
Okay. So the plan is to go beyond just, oh, he played Pablo Escobar.
Way beyond. We need to understand how he approaches these things. So we'll look at his roles almost like research projects.
Connect the acting directly to his activism.
Yes. And then dig into the philosophical ideas sort of embedded in the characters he chooses.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with his process. Because the way he prepares, it really does turn acting into a kind of intellectual investigation.
It absolutely does.
Take Narcos, playing Pablo Escobar. The research, according to our sources, was just immense.
Staggering, yeah.
He didn't just, read a few history books. He immersed himself in Colombia's history, the really turbulent parts, trying to grasp the whole socio-political mess that kind of allowed the Medellin cartel to thrive.
And exploited the very systems meant to stop them, yeah. And that intellectual effort, it started with the language itself.
Right, the Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, he's a native Portuguese speaker.
Yeah.
So he had to essentially, rebuild his linguistic framework for Colombian Spanish.
Not just conversational Spanish either, right?
No. Months of study, focusing on the specific regional accent, the cadence, even Escobar's unique speech patterns. And this wasn't just showing off.
No.
It was about respect. Respect for the culture, the history. Getting the dialect right, he felt, was crucial for grounding the performance in, well, reality.
And that focus on authenticity, that lets him tackle the really tough questions. The sources make it clear he wasn't aiming for a simple villain, a caricature.
Not at all.
He was digging into the psychological contradiction. How does someone, build schools and houses for the poor?
While ordering hundreds of killings. Yeah. That's the absolute core of it, the contradiction.
So how did he approach that?
He had to explore the psychology of self-justification. How do you rationalize extreme violence as maybe a necessary tool for a bigger, maybe even philanthropic goal? Wow. He looked into Escobar's background, the poverty, the resentment towards the elite things that fueled this criminal empire builder mindset as he saw it. It provided the internal logic, how we're twisted.
And you see that same kind of deep dive, that meticulousness, in his earlier big role in Brazil, Captain Nascimento, an elite squad.
Copa de Elite.
Oh, absolutely. A cultural phenomenon in Brazil.
To play the leader of BOPE, the elite police unit, he didn't just hang out with cops. He studied police manuals, did tons of interviews.
And really focus on the psychological damage, right? The toll that constant violence and institutional corruption takes on those officers.
Yeah.
And that connects the role directly to real-world issues, to policy. His performances aren't just drama, they're social commentary. By researching BOPE so intensely, he showed the human cost of a system demanding violent efficiency. Makes you ask where the line is between protecting people and becoming, well, part of the problem, state-sanctioned brutality.
Exactly. Which leads perfectly into the next point.
Right.
For Moura, his art and his citizenship, they aren't separate things.
They feed each other.
Completely inseparable.
Yeah.
His identity as an artist and his activism are intertwined. That's why his choices feel so potent.
And you see it off screen too. He's very public, very vocal against political corruption back in Brazil.
Constantly.
Advocates for indigenous rights, supports LGBTQ plus communities. He uses his platform.
He really does. And Tropa de Elite is maybe the prime example of that synergy. That film was, well, explosive in Brazil.
Huge controversy, right?
Massive. It forced this national conversation about police violence, corruption, the militarization of policing in the favelas. By playing Nascimento, a character right at the sharp end of that system, Moura made audiences confront really uncomfortable truths.
So the film itself became a catalyst.
A huge cultural moment, yeah.
Yeah.
It pushed real discussions about state failure.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. His activism isn't just about the roles he picked.
Oh, it goes further.
The sources mention public endorsements of progressive politicians, joining protests against authoritarian measures, and using his international interviews to amplify voices from Brazil that might not otherwise be heard globally.
So when he plays these characters struggling with morality inside oppressive systems, the act of choosing and portraying them is the activism. It's cultural criticism, it's resistance.
He's holding up a mirror.
A mirror, yes, but also trying to be a catalyst for change, challenging how we think about heroes, villains, and broken systems.
Which brings us to the philosophy embedded in all this.
Right, because his work consistently dives into these big, heavy questions. What makes us who we are? Where does our personal responsibility stop? Is redemption even possible when you're caught in cycles of violence? What's fascinating here is that grappling.
That really is the deep dive part, isn't it? It's more than just drama. It's exploring the human condition.
Yeah.
If we go back to Escobar and Narcos, the whole philosophical tension there is about that self-justification. Moura's performance forces you to accept that Escobar likely didn't see himself as purely evil.
He saw himself maybe as a revolutionary, providing for people the state ignored. It's the ultimate twisted rationalization, but Moura makes you see how someone could arrive there.
That complexity is what makes it so compelling.
Absolutely. Showing a man who could order horrific violence and then, minutes later, be incredibly tender with his family. It shatters easy categories.
Black and white thinking just doesn't apply.
His work lives in those shades of gray, the messy reality of human choices.
And we see that same ethical struggle in Mariella, the film he directed in 2019.
A really powerful film about Carlos Mariella fighting the Brazilian military dictatorship.
And it tackles revolutionary violence head-on, but without making him a simple hero.
Exactly. It asks that classic, difficult question. When you're fighting a truly oppressive, murderous regime, do the ends justify the means? Marighella chooses armed struggle, bank robberies, sabotage.
Like on state terror.
Right. And Moura doesn't give you an easy answer. He shows the character wrestling with the immense moral weight of those choices, the psychological cost of trying to stay ideologically pure when violence becomes your tool against oppression.
So the recurring philosophical themes in his characters are often about this clash between what an individual wants or believes is right and the huge social forces pushing against them.
Deterministic forces,
The nature of justice when society itself is deeply unequal, and just the sheer mental burden of trying to be moral in a corrupt world.
And that burden, that complexity, that's key to his artistic signature. He shows the world as it is, complicated, contradictory, ethically demanding. His characters rarely get neat endings.
No tidy resolutions.
Because real life, real change, real justice, they're ongoing, messy processes.
And that intellectual drive, it doesn't switch off when the director yells cut. It extends into his music, too, with his band Sua Mãe.
Which translates to your mother, right? Already a bit provocative.
It is. Sets a tone.
And the music definitely follows through. As the lyricist and singer, he's channeling the exact same intellectual and activist vibe we see on screen.
It's a mix of rock, Brazilian rhythms.
And the lyrics are pretty direct. Commentaries on Brazilian identity, social inequality, government failures.
It's all one project, really. When you look at the themes in his songs, political corruption, fighting for self-expression, personal versus collective freedom.
It's the same territory he explores in Tropa de Elite or Marighella. It's consistent.
So why music? What does that add?
Well, I think music offers him this unfiltered channel. There's no character layer, no director, no studio notes, really.
Just him and the audience.
Right. The stage is a platform for direct commentary, sometimes direct political speech. It lets him test ideas, maybe, that then feed back into his character work later. It's this continuous loop.
Between the raw thought in the music and the nuanced performance on screen.
Yeah, the definition of a complete artist intellectual, I'd say.
So what does this all mean, then, when we think about his legacy, his impact?
Well, first, there's the international recognition. Awards like the Golden Eye, the Zurich Film Festival, they acknowledge the artistic quality.
Sure, the validation.
But his deeper impact is cultural, I think. He's become this important bridge, bringing complex Brazilian stories to a global audience.
through things like Narcos, and just by being so open about Brazilian politics, people worldwide are engaging with Latin American realities that aren't simplified or stereotyped.
Exactly. He forces a global audience to grapple with the nuances of power, corruption, resistance in a way they might not otherwise.
So summing it up,
Wagner Moura really embodies this intellectual pulse in modern performance. It's this rare combination of intense, almost academic research, passionate activism, and deep philosophical questioning. His legacy isn't just the awards, it's how he's redefined what a socially conscious artist can be.
Someone using every platform they have
to tackle the big, difficult questions of our time.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to take away from our dive today. Since Moura's art and his activism are so deeply linked, consider this.
When an artist like him makes you confront uncomfortable truths, maybe about state violence or systemic corruption, or difficult ethical compromises, are you just watching entertainment? Or perhaps, are you participating in a small act of resistance just by paying attention? Something to think about.